For this next video is going to be 4.6 and 4.8. I can multiply and divide mixed numbers. And we're going to skip section 4.7 and come back to it later. And for multiplying mixed numbers, we'll do that first. There's going to be 3 steps. So the first step is to make the mixed numbers improper fractions. And you have to do that when you're multiplying, or you won't get the right answer. The second step is to multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. And the third step is to simplify before or after you multiply. And we'll talk about how to do that in a second. So then I'm going to write down some examples and we'll do those together. So I'm going to put examples here. And let's call the first example example A. And for the first one, let's do negative 9 over 13 times 26 over 27. So step 1 is to make them improper, but these aren't mixed numbers, so I don't have to. I can just go on to step 2. Step 2 is to multiply straight across, and we're going to do that across the top and the bottom. And step 3 is to simplify, and you can simplify before or after. If I was taking my test and this was on there, I don't really want to do 9 times 26 without a calculator, so I would simplify before I multiply. So what you do when you simplify before you multiply is you look diagonally, one on top and one on bottom, and I think, is there anything that will go into 13 and 26 evenly? And 13 will go into both. So I do 13 divided by 13 and I get a 1, and 26 divided by 13 and I get a 2. Then I look this way, and I think, is there anything that will go evenly into 9 and 27? And 9 will. Negative 9 divided by 9 is negative 1, so I still have a negative 1 here. And 27 divided by 9 is 3. So I have negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. 1 times 3 is 3, so my answer is negative 2/3. You don't have to cross-reduce or cross-simplify before you multiply. You can simplify at the end, but I like to do it before so I don't have as big of numbers to work with. Let's do another example. For example B, let's do negative 2 and 3/5 times negative 1 and 3/7. And you're going to multiply here, and then add here to make it improper, and multiply here and add here to make it improper, just like we did in the last lesson. So 5 times 2 is 10 plus 3 is 13, so I have negative 13 over 5, remember the denominator stays the same as I have here, times 7 times 1 is 7 plus 3 is 10, so negative 10 over 7. I could cross-simplify here or cross-reduce, but I'm not going to right now. I'm going to do it without cross-canceling so you can see what happens when you don't. And I'm just going to multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. So negative 13 times negative 10 is positive 130. Because I know if they have the same sign, my answer will be positive. And then 5 times 7 is 35. So now I'm on step 3. I have to simplify. I know since this one ends in a 0 and this one ends in a 5, I can divide them both by 5. So 130 divided by 5 is 26, and 35 divided by 5 is 7. That is reduced, so I could leave this as my answer, or I can change it back into a mixed number and say 7 goes into 26 3 times, which would be 21, so there are 5/7 left over. All right, let's do some problems where we're dividing. So I'm going to move this up. We're going to write down dividing mixed numbers right here. Dividing mixed numbers. And there are 4 steps when we're dividing. The first step is to make them improper again. The second step is keep, change, flip. The third step is to multiply straight across. And the fourth step is to simplify. And again, we can simplify before or after we are multiplying. Simplify before or after multiplying. So the key here is you have to make it into a multiplication problem before we can cross reduce or cross cancel, but then we can do that before we multiply if we want to. So let's do a couple examples. Let's call this example C, since this is our third example. Let's do -8 divided by 1/3. I need to turn -8 into a fraction, so I'm going to put it over 1. And I don't need to make these improper since they're not mixed numbers. So I go on to step 2, keep, change, flip. That means I keep this one the same. So I still write down the -8 over 1. I change this to multiplication, and I flip this fraction. So now I have a positive 3 over 1. Now I multiply straight across the top and bottom. I'm on step 3. -8 times 3 is -24. 1 times 1 is 1. I can't simplify this other than getting rid of the 1, so my answer is -24. Okay, let's do one more where we have mixed numbers. So for example D, let's do 3/8 divided by 6 1/4. And so this one's not a mixed number, so I don't have to change it. This one I do. So the 3/8 stays the same. I'm going to multiply the denominator times the whole number and then add the numerator. So 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 is 25. So I have 3/8 divided by 25 over 4. And then I'm going to keep, change, flip. So I keep this one the same, so I have the 3/8 still. Change that to multiplication, and then flip the second fraction. Now that it's a multiplication problem, if I want, I can cross reduce or cross cancel, and I notice that 4 will go in here 1 time and in here 2 times. I can't cross reduce this way, nothing will go evenly into 3 and 25 besides 1. And then 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 25 is 50, and I can't simplify that anymore, so I get 3 over 50 as my final answer.